So, at long last, in the opening segment, we finally got some hype for the Bound for Glory main event. And I say some because they were kind of splitting their focus here. AJ Styles and Bully Ray acknowledged each other, which in itself was a big improvement over recent weeks, but they were also talking a lot about Dixie Carter. This Impact Wrestling review was brought to you by 5 Hour Energy. Try it, and Impact Wrestling will mysteriously lose power like WWE did at Battleground if they ever even think about putting Garrett Bischoff in a main event match again. Okay, now that's more what I'm talking about. Apparently TNA finally looked at a calendar, saw they had 10 days until their biggest show, and realized that, oh shit, we don't have pay-per-view spots for Samoa Joe, Gail Kim, and so on. Maybe we should address that at some point. And they did, for what it's worth. It felt like last-minute damage control, and let's face it, that's exactly what it was. But thanks to all the creative shifts when Pritchard left, that might have been unavoidable. Samoa Joe comes out, and he just announces that he's going to be in the Ultimate X match. Just like that. Was this totally random and completely out of left field? Yes. Was there any build-up to it whatsoever? No. Is it better than Joe being stuck in a match with Nux and Garrett Bischoff? You bet your ass it is. It's not a perfect scenario, but it's got 2 in the pro column and 1 in the con column, so it could be worse. And at least there was an actual announcement. That's more than Gail Kim got. During the Knockouts match, Tenay just casually mentioned that Gail Kim was facing ODB for the title at the pay-per-view. What? When the hell did this happen? How did she get into the match? When was the match made? I don't know. And after all the times Gail has faced ODB in the last few months alone, I don't really care either. That's a problem. So the good news is Joe and Gail have pay-per-view spots now. The bad news is their involvement feels so last minute that, at best, my reaction can be summed up as, well, it's better than them not being on the show, I guess. Say whatever you want about this Dixie Carter heel character, but you can't deny that it's getting a lot of heat. She's got to be one of the more over heels on the show already, and that's after just a few weeks. That's a good sign. And I love what they're doing with her, too. Taking these things that all the asshole critics have been saying about her for years and throwing it back in their faces. She looks like she's having a lot of fun with it, and it's been a lot of fun to watch. It could use a little fine-tuning, though. I do feel like she's trying to get too much information across too quickly. Maybe if she slowed down, paced herself a little bit, didn't try to do so much so fast it would sink in more. But that aside, I'm really enjoying this. If they're smart about it, they could use the heat she's generating to make a lot of stars. I just hope they're smart enough to do it with the right people. So Austin Aries versus Jeff Hardy is the opening match of the night.
Say what?
Yeah. And if you're wondering why this Bound for Glory main event rematch is in the curtain jerker spot while the 2 remaining members of the Meat Shields get the main event, well, I'm just as confused as you are.
Oh, what a bunch of bull.
But fuck that shit. The greatest man that ever lived is always the main event, goddammit, even if he doesn't get the fanfare he deserves. And he proved it again here. Solid match, awesome finish with a brainbuster off the turnbuckle, and Aries actually beats Hardy. That's fantastic.
Yes!
Unfortunately, they didn't play that up as a big deal at all. They didn't spend any time on it, so it didn't feel like it meant anything. And it really should have. A win over Jeff Hardy by a guy like Austin Aries should mean something, especially after their feud last year. But as soon as the bell rings, the moment is undercut when Samoa Joe comes out to make his announcement about the Ultimate X. So Aries' win was almost immediately forgotten. What a waste. And here's another thing about Dixie Carter. She needs to be more consistent. She gets on Sting's case for going into business for himself, making the Bound for Glory match with Magnus without her say-so, but Samoa Joe puts himself in the Ultimate X match just for the hell of it, and that she's perfectly fine with? So it's okay for Joe and not for Sting? Why? I mean, the announcement came off well and everything, but I'm just saying there's some inconsistencies here. Plot hole! You know, every time I think the bromance couldn't possibly be bigger losers, they somehow managed to find an even lower rung on the ladder. The ambiguously gay duo. They get it in their heads that ODB is the reason for all their bad luck, so we get ODB versus Jesse Goddard. 10 days before Bound for Glory, and this is what we're spending TV time on. Wow. So Eric Young fights off Robbie, and then Jesse proceeds to get his ass kicked by a woman, and then Lady Tapa shows up, and Jesse runs like a little girl from another woman. Yeah, just keep digging that hole you're in even deeper, bromance. You'll dig all the way to China at this point.
You guys suck.
Lady Tapa lays out ODB and holds up the title, so presumably she'll be challenging for it in the near future. I'm trying to stay objective on this, and while my concerns about Tapa have not changed, I will say that she came off better here than she did last week. Probably because they kept her appearance more brief so she couldn't expose herself as much. Also, the character was better here. You know, the crazy mannerisms were toned down, she wasn't yelling quite as much. That helped. So she's going to be a work in progress, clearly, and I'd be very wary of pushing her too much too soon, but this was a step in the right direction at least. The best segment of the night. The most hysterical segment of the year in any company. Kaz and Daniels, dressed to the nines in their Dumb and Dumber tuxedos, inducting Bobby Roode into the Extraordinary Gentlemen's Organization Hall of Fame. When they played that video with Rude's face superimposed over the baby and his name dubbed over other people's promos, I lost it. This was fucking hysterical. My sides hurt. I was laughing so hard. They even had Rude play along with it. Like, oh man, I promised myself I wouldn't cry. Oh my god. Fucking hysterical. Man, there's comedy gold, and then there's this. This was too awesome for words. Ego are gods right now. This faction is fucking amazing. Now, was the whole thing basically just a way to hotshot Bobby Roode versus Kurt Angle at Bound for Glory? Yeah. But it was so ridiculously entertaining I didn't even care. I don't know if I'll feel that way come October 20th, but Angle returning felt like a big moment, and as far as setting up a match for him at the last minute is concerned, I thought they did a pretty damn good job, all things considered. Kudos. So they tried again with Velvet Sky versus Brooke Don't Call Me Tessmacher. She dropped the last name for some reason, which feels like a mistake to me since it was easily chantable, but she's a heel now, so whatever. I don't know why Lady Tapa didn't interfere this time, but the winner here would get the third spot in the Knockouts Championship match at Bound for Glory. No explanation for how Gail Kim got the second one, but I guess we're just ignoring that. The match is not that good, which is understandable. It was the first time Brooke had wrestled in I don't know how long, so she was probably rusty, and it was her first match working as a heel, so she couldn't work her usual style. And then you had Velvet, who was selling the beating from last week, and as we've already established, Velvet's selling ability is, well, it is what it is. Plus, I couldn't help but feel like this was all last-minute build-up for a match that's going to be ultimately pointless. Creative's already looking ahead to when they pull the trigger on Lady Tapa, so does it really matter who walks out of Bound for Glory with the Knockouts title? Maybe I'd care a little more if they had an actual storyline here, but Gail and ODB has been done to death. And Brooke being in there just feels like they're adding another body to the mix so we won't get the same damn match we've already seen 50 times this year. I want to care about this title match, but I just don't. But I'll tell you something I do care about. Something uncompromising. Unflappable. Unforgettable. Undeniable. EC3. Ethan Carter III. New talent debuting? Spoiled rich kid character? Last name Carter. Interesting. I'm not playing the WWE reject card here at all. Honestly, I thought WWE dropped the ball with Derek Bateman. He always seemed to me like a pretty solid talent just crying out for a good gimmick. If TNA can give him that, and it looks like they may have, I'm intrigued. These vignettes have been entertaining, and you know what? I'm excited to see what they do with this guy. However, speaking of those vignettes, the caption reads, "Earlier tonight," and then they showed the exact same video they aired last week of Ethan going into some nightclub. The exact same one.
What the fuck?
How the hell does that happen? I mean, come on, TNA, that's so Bush League. You should be better than this by now. That was a WCW mistake right there. Is Ethan doing a Groundhog's Day thing? Does he have a time machine? Is that his gimmick? Is he a time traveler? You know, you tried that once before and it really didn't work. I swear to God, TNA, if Ethan turns out to be a gay vampire and or zombie, heads are gonna roll.
I will not participate in this charade this evening.
So, per Dixie Carter's orders, Magnus and Sting had to face Bad Influence, and if they lost, their Bound for Glory match was off the table. So you knew they were going to win, no suspense there. Thankfully, the writers foresaw that and made how they won the real story here. Magnus had the match won, but instead of going for the pin, he tried to get the submission, which wasted too much time. Bad Influence got the upper hand back, Sting had to finish them instead, and Magnus is pissed at himself. And this was good. Magnus and Sting, as two babyfaces who respect each other, wouldn't be a very dynamic way to approach this. So they're adding a new wrinkle here, making Magnus doubt himself more, putting more pressure on him, making him frustrated, building up some tension between him and Sting. Maybe teasing a heel turn, which I really hope doesn't happen. And I think it works. It's a simple story, but it's effective. Magnus sells it very well. I just hope the casual fans are receptive enough to what's going on here that they don't start booing Magnus because they think he's going to turn heel, and I think there is a danger of that happening, but I like it so far. It's been well done. I don't know whose bright idea it was to put Nux and Garrett Bischoff in the main event of Impact this week, but whoever was responsible for that needs a CAT scan or something. 10 days before your biggest show of the whole year, and you're putting the two most meaningless members of your roster in the main event? What is wrong with this picture? I don't even care if it made sense because of the Bully Ray connection. It was stupid. Nux and Garrett have no heat. People don't give two shits about these clowns, and they've been given no reason to. Any idiot could have told you this wasn't going to be any good. The match was sloppy. Garrett is awful. And holy shit, man, if even AJ Styles can't carry your sorry ass, then what the hell are you even doing there? It's time to find a new profession, Garrett. Seriously. You trying to be a wrestler is just painful.
Now forever leave my presence. Leave this ring, leave this building, leave the state. I think you should be exiled from the United States of America.
AJ wins, of course, because Nux and Garrett suck. But really, I was just counting the minutes waiting for this match to end so Bully Ray could do something. And him beating AJ down afterwards was alright, I guess, but it felt like too little too late at this point. Minus the meat shields having absolutely no place in the main event and a couple other notable hiccups, Impact was really good this week. But despite the late-breaking attempt to hype Bound for Glory, it just doesn't feel like it's going to be enough. The build-up overall has been very lackluster, and with only one more Impact left before the pay-per-view, they've still only got 6 matches announced. I don't know what the hell they're going to do for the other two. I mean, debut Ethan maybe? But that would still make them one short. And anything else they put in there now would just feel like filler, so they're in a tough spot here. It's really disappointing that the hype couldn't be any better for this. I can only hope that once this pay-per-view is over, they will have stabilized enough creatively so that this doesn't happen a second time.